Welcome back, baby. Before we get into my interpretation of Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance, I just want to say I don't think that there is a right or wrong way to interpret this. Just because I say something that may not align with how you perceive this performance does not mean it's necessarily wrong. It's art, so it's open to interpretation. Everyone's going to have a different perspective and understanding of his performance based off of your life experiences, based off of your own perspective. So it doesn't mean that there is only one right way. There is no one set way, unless Kendrick Lamar says it. But again, it's art. Unless you're talking about some stupid shit like DEI, then that's wrong. But everything else, I think, is open to interpretation. I had to handwrite these notes. That's how serious this was. First of all, let's give Kendrick Lamar Duckworth his flowers. Phenomenal performance. I loved every second of it. I was out my seat, glued to the TV like that. I am a Kendrick Lamar fan. I love Kendrick Lamar. I've been watching him since I was a kid. Since Swimming Pools came out, Good Kid, Mad City, I have been a fan for a while. Last year, my Apple Music top 5, he was number 4. So let's get into it. We're going to start from the very beginning. We have the introduction. In the crowd, it says loading. Goes all the way up to 100%, like a video game. There's an X, circle, square, and a triangle, which made me think of a PlayStation controller. Also, the X, square, circle, triangle are also used in football for plays. Then we have the great Samuel L. Jackson, who did a phenomenal job. It just, oh my gosh, it invigorated my spirit. Samuel L. Jackson did so well. He did so freaking good. He comes onto the scene saying, "This is the great American game. I'm your Uncle Sam." Now, the great American game, we know it as football. Football is a very American sport. Other countries know football as soccer, but we know it as you throw a football, you get a touchdown, all those things. Great American game being football because we're at the Super Bowl, but the great American game is capitalism. Uncle Sam historically has been a symbol of the government. It was used as propaganda back in the day to recruit people into the military. Now we know it more so as Uncle Sam's going to get you if you don't pay your taxes. It also has a double meaning, especially to Black Americans, which is why choosing Samuel L. Jackson to play Uncle Sam is so genius. Samuel L. Jackson played this character in this movie called The Django, where his character loved his master. It was a slave movie. He loved his master. He would do anything for him. He was subservient. He was submissive to his master, including do his own people in. He would snitch on his own people just so he could please his master. Seeing Uncle Sam say all of these things, saying his performance was too loud, too ghetto, at least for me, was just so personal and reminiscent of real instances I've had in my life where I've been policed by older Black people on how to behave to appear more palatable to white people in white spaces. Even if I was in a group of Black people, Black people, especially our elders, have been conditioned to behave a certain type of way, and that is how they play the game. That's the only way they know how to play the game. So Samuel L. Jackson playing Uncle Sam also can have a double meaning for being an Uncle Tom, someone who only operates a certain way just to be palatable and appease white audiences. Now, going into the great American game, capitalism. To me, it's a broader topic on class consciousness, because although capitalism, the game, is not specific to Black people are the only ones, for the most part, who can actually see it for what it is, which is a game. Black people are never given these rose-colored glasses to see it from a different lens. Whether those rose-colored glasses is a symbol for white privilege, or maybe if your parents an immigrant and you just don't really know the history. Black people, for the most part, have been dealing with the game head on. And now with all these things happening politically in our world, when people say they're waking up, that is what they're waking up to the game of capitalism and the actual truth about it. But Black people have known since the dawn of time. I'm going to say for a majority of us. Now we get into the start of the performance. Kendrick starts off with a freestyle. In this freestyle, he says, "No more handshakes and hugs. The energy only circulates through us. Everyone must be judged, but this time God's only favoring us." It was really for the Black community. Like, it was really for us. He was really standing up for the Black community, for our experience. He's saying God's going to favor his chosen people. Period. Another notable line that he said is, they only saw me as government cheese, but now I can seize the government too. And when you think about the cover from To Pimp a Butterfly, it's just a perfect blend. We go body for body, I hand you a body, I better my masseuse. And then that's when we see all these dancers get out the car. Like, how the fuck did they even fit in there? Also, the car that he had on stage was a GNX. I saw someone mention that a GNX, especially back in the day, was a symbol of power and prestige, which makes sense because that's the position that Kendrick is in, especially now. I think the introduction has so many things to pay attention to. I noticed that when he's on stage, everyone gets out of the car, but only the dancers in red stay on stage with him. He says the revolution will be televised. You picked the right time, but the wrong guy. People in the red were staying on the side of the stage. Before he said that message, they did hand motions like they were kind of raising him up. And after he made his statement, they all panicked and freaked out, which I thought was really interesting. The quote is an adaptation from the popular song The Revolution Will Not Be Televised from Gil Scott-Heron. In that song, Gil Scott-Heron is saying, you cannot sit at home, you cannot be passive, you're going to have to get up, you're going to have to be active for this revolution. You can't be sitting there doing your nails, you can't be sitting there getting a haircut. No, you need to be out in the streets doing the work. And I think Kendrick opening his show with that statement is so powerful and so beautiful and really sets the stage for the message that he's giving in his performance. Now, when he says, you picked the wrong guy, I took that as a message to the system. We all know that Orange Man was there. And the system, the game, Uncle Sam would have loved if it was some jigaboo tap dancing type guy. You know, in the words of Snoop Dogg, who eventually became that, was a jigaboo type dancing guy. Same thing with Soulja Boy. They would love for it to be a Nelly, a Soulja Boy, a Snoop Dogg to be there at the Super Bowl performing for them. But Kendrick Lamar is saying, you picked the wrong guy. You think I'm going to do that for you, but I'm not. I'm not standing with you. I'm standing with my people. Which he then transitions into Squabble Up. Somebody better squabble up. That shit was tough. That shit was hard, bro. One thing I think is really interesting and important to note is that historically, gangs, before they turn to violence, they actually used to dance battle with each other. That's how they would solve their issues, would be a dance battle. Literally step up type shit. Like, that's how they used to solve things before they had guns and all this dumbass shit that Uncle Sam gave them. Now, I paid attention to which verses and which lyrics Kendrick was choosing to speak during these performances, because that was a pivotal part in his storytelling. So he says, quid pro quo, what you want, because I'm watching it. Quid pro quo is Latin for something, as in an exchange, a trade. Like, you give me this, I'll give you that. When Kendrick said that, he was letting the system know that he knows that this comes with a price. He knows that all these accolades, all these things come with a price. So it's like, what do you want? You think that I'm going to do something for you. You think that I'm going to be tap dancing and performing for you, but that's not the case. I think they know that Kendrick's not going to do that. So what is it that you want? Are you testing Kendrick? What are you trying to get at? And Kendrick goes on to say, the blueprint is by me. As in him, as in black people. Black people are the blueprint. Saying that black people are the foundation, what we've been screaming at the top of our lungs forever. Black people are the foundation of everything that America is. That is one of the main messages that I received from his performance. Now, this is the part I thought was really interesting. All the dancers that are on stage with him while he's performing Squabble Up are all dressed in red. And Kendrick Lamar notably stands out amongst all of the red. Made me think maybe he's with a certain group of people. You get what I'm saying? The Uncle Sam types. You get what I'm saying? He says, it was wolf tickets till I silenced it. And when he's saying this, he separates himself from the dancers in the red. They go to opposite sides of the stage. And he separates himself and he starts rapping. The group on the right are looking at him. They do some weird hand motions. They do some weird hand dances. Okay. Especially, you know, a little wink to the time that we're in right now. And they're kind of just watching him, like, taken aback. That one little shawty's face right there was freaking me out in the distance. It was just like, whoa. No shade though. Pipe down, these some whole other politics. No, I feel like was very on the nose. Then he says, ghetto child, it was black and mild with the Smirnoff. That's my favorite part. I love that part of the song. But he says that and he looks nervously to the right at the group and then says they're about to kill him off, and they switch sides. So he goes to the opposite side in which they were originally standing on. They start dancing a little bit. They reintegrate as he's saying, let the wolves out, I've been a dog. I thought that part was really interesting because I'm thinking, is he saying that he's been in their position before? Is he saying that he understands what it's like to walk in their shoes? I just thought it was really interesting, why specifically did he say that? Why specifically did he do that? But when he merges back with the dancers in red, he kind of reemerges as a leader. And the dancing throughout the whole entire show is very militaristic. You get what I'm saying? Like, he is the leader of this army. When he was ending Squabble Up, I also kind of took it as some of the people in the red saw his side of things, as if he earned their respect. And so they started to follow his lead. That's when Uncle Sam comes back in to break it up. Like, no, trying to shame him, saying, no, that's too ghetto, that's too loud. Do you know how to play the game? Because Kendrick Lamar is not playing the game how Uncle Sam wants him to play. Uncle Sam being the creator of the game. Uncle Sam is purposefully trying to discourage Kendrick Lamar because he sees that what Kendrick is doing is effective. Then Uncle Sam tells him to tighten up. And that's when Kendrick Lamar breaks into humble. Be humble, sit down. I took this as two ways. Obviously, that's what Uncle Sam tells Black Americans to do. Once we start feeling ourselves, once we start getting to a place of power and prestige, they say, sit back down, dim your light. But Kendrick Lamar using only Black men to paint the American flag was also Kendrick Lamar sending a message to Uncle Sam saying, we built this. You need to know your place, Uncle Sam. You need to recognize where you stand, Uncle Sam, because if it wasn't for us, we wouldn't even have America. We wouldn't even have this country. Maybe you should sit down and be humble, Uncle Sam. And the power, and showing the American flag full of Black bodies, full of Black faces, because we are the ones who built this country. Brick by brick, there would be no America without Black people. Again, we are the blueprint. The blueprint is by me. If it wasn't for Black Americans, we would not even have an America. And then he stands in the middle of a split flag, showing the current division within our country. What I also thought was interesting was that the dancers who were standing in the American flag were also doing the same dance moves and choreography from the music video Humble by Kendrick Lamar. And to me, I took that as Kendrick Lamar is saying, they listen to me. They listen to Kendrick's impact. They listen to Kendrick's influence. Kendrick is showing the power that he has. People who built this country listen to Kendrick, not to Uncle Sam. Again, reinforcing the sentiment to Uncle Sam saying, know your place. And then they start moving down the stage, marching. And I thought it was really interesting because as they go into the crowd, they start scattering because they hear gunshots. But the shooter in the crowd was actually a person wearing red. And I thought that was really interesting. And he goes into playing DNA to show us that he remembers exactly where he comes from. They want him to be humble, but he knows where he comes from. He starts off and says, I have loyalty and royalty inside my DNA. I got war and peace inside my DNA. I got hustle, though, ambition flow inside my DNA. To me, it also seemed like the dancers were kind of protecting him in a way while he was singing that. And I also thought it was interesting that the dancers in red were kind of protecting him, which might be a Judas and Jesus situation. They also might be showing Kendrick's impact. His impact crosses cultures. I also thought it was interesting that instead of saying, I was born like this, immaculate conception, Kendrick replaces the line and says, Yeshua's new weapon. Twice. He says that twice. And for those who don't know, the name Yeshua is the original or maybe alternative name for Jesus. So he's saying Jesus' new weapon, like Jesus' new soldier. Now he ends singing DNA. Instead of saying, I wish I was dead, because that's the original line, he says, I wish I was, and he stops and says, hold on. And Euphoria starts playing. And he was cooking. Euphoria started playing. I felt so seen. That was my favorite song out of the whole rap beef. Oh my gosh, I felt so seen. It caught me so off guard too when I was watching it. I was like, wait, I know this song. And I think he chose Euphoria because that was him fighting back, especially the transition. Because instead of saying, I wish I was dead, he's finding the will to fight back. Makes perfect sense when you think about it in the context of the rap beef, because after Drake dropped push-ups, Euphoria was Kendrick getting his lick back. Now, when he starts off with Euphoria, the crowd says, warning, wrong way. The timestamp on the video is 444. Just had to say it. So I took that as, is that Uncle Sam is telling him, wait, you were doing so well. You were minimizing yourself. You were putting yourself down. You were with your roots, but you weren't really doing anything about it. Like, you were there, but but you weren't really fighting back. You weren't putting up them dudes. You were just complacent. In Euphoria, Kendrick says, I'm reaping what I sow, okay? Got a Benjamin and a Jackson all in my house like I'm Joe, okay? And all the dancers start to move like all the pieces in the game are moving. He also says in Euphoria, have you ever walked your enemy down like with a poker face? And then he does a little smile. And then he ends with boom. Then he walks over to a light pole. And it was a group of black men in all white. I personally love this scene before Uncle Sam stepped in, because how often do you just see a group of black men smiling? They were grinning ear to ear, gold teeth showing, which also has so much cultural significance, but they're grinning, looking like they're having a genuine good time. And it's like, how often do you really see that? I just love that so much. Kendrick starts singing Man at the Garden. I think that was personal for Kendrick because it signifies his roots in the sense of how he came up in hip hop, because he didn't come up with the glitz and glamour as opposed to someone like Drake, who had the funding, who was already on TV. Kendrick started on the streets. Kendrick started rapping in ciphers. He started rapping on the streets, which they don't really have much but themselves and their voices. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's so beautiful. It's so crazy. To me, what Kendrick was saying is he can still be who he is. He's saying, I deserve it all. He can still be who he is. He can still enjoy what he enjoys and has the success that he has, which is true. We see it for our very eyes. I just thought it was so powerful. I thought it was so powerful because he's saying, I deserve it all. I deserve to be proud of where I come from, to be around who I want to be with, to embrace my culture, and still have the success that I deserve. I deserve it all. And of course, what happens when white people see black people having too much fun? They gotta come in. They gotta bring in Uncle Sam. And that's exactly what happened. You really have to pay attention to Kendrick's facial expressions during this part. I personally loved it. It was such a genuine moment. Like, the way he captured it was so perfect, because we've all had that experience where it's like, you're just having a good time with your friends, bro. You're not hurting nobody. And all of a sudden, this little Karen, whoever, just gonna come in and blow your shit. Like, and you just see his face, the facial expression he made, it just emulated that energy so well. It's just so perfect. But of course, Uncle Sam had to come in and ruin everything. He says, you brought your homeboys with you, the old culture cheat code. The next line is important, and I see most people talking about that, but I don't see enough people emphasizing the culture cheat code. It goes back to the great American game, because the enemy of capitalism is community. Kendrick is saying, if we stick together, if we unify, if we respect one another, that is our cheat code to win the game. That is how we break the system. By standing as a united front. That is our cheat code. But of course, that's not what Uncle Sam wants. That's not what Uncle Sam likes. So he has to deduct one life. And I took that line as very literal, because that does happen in real life. Whether it's police brutality, whether it's Uncle Sam only placing liquor stores and fast food restaurants in communities that are predominantly black, whether it's us being abused by the education system, by the medical industry, whatever the case may be. It has so many layers to it. Also including prison. You deduct one life, you take them away. And so they move into the X. I assumed that was prison because it seemed like they were in a box. I thought it was interesting because everyone was wearing white, but they were all pitted against each other. They were all wearing the same color, which to me signified that they were all the same. Another thing I thought was interesting was when they zoomed out and you could see the bird eye view, the cameramen were in red while everyone else was in white. I thought that was really interesting. Just like the people in Squabble Up, those dancers were wearing red. So I thought that was really interesting. Then Kendrick pops up and sings Peekaboo. I personally think that he chose Peekaboo because it shows him overcoming. Because one, it is surprising that you could have all these odds stacked against you, but somehow you're still overcoming. Somehow you're still having all these accolades. And the song is very braggadocious. He's talking about the things that he bought. And that's a symbol of wealth in the black community, saying that you have these chains, you have this, you have that. It was him overcoming all the circumstances. I also thought he's trying to show unity because he goes to every side that the dancers are on and he brings them all to one side. He brings them all together. If you pay attention to this performance or just Kendrick's music in general, that has always been a goal of his, is to unify. Same thing with Juneteenth. He's trying to bring all the hoods together. He is trying to unify the black community. Again, because community is the cultural cheat code. Community is the cultural cheat code to the game. And then he starts teasing Not Like Us. Now, as a Kendrick fan, I love this. So there's a song on To Pimp a Butterfly called King Kunta. And in King Kunta, a lot of people argue that that's when Kendrick's actually stirring the pot and calling Drake out and starting the beef. Because in King Kunta, Kendrick says lines like, a rapper with a ghostwriter, what the fuck happened?
Oh no.
And then he also says, I was gonna kill a couple rappers, but they did themselves. Everybody's suicidal, they didn't even need my help. And that's when he's kind of telling you too, like, he's the king of this rap shit. Looking back on it with King Kunta, there's just so many Easter eggs. I could do a whole video about that. Also in King Kunta, he's talking to this female voice. Like, there's this female voice in the ad-libs and in the background. So the fact that he used this female ad-lib in background to introduce Not Like Us is just so funny. I just love this so much. He brings out these ladies, and I also noticed that these ladies were wearing white. And I think that was also to signify unity between Black men and Black women, saying that we are one, we are together. So then Kendrick's talking to the ladies, and he's like, hold on, can y'all do me a solid real quick? That's when he transitions into Luther. Uncle Sam goes, oh, you lost your damn mind. Because now he's completely unhinged. You know, he unified everyone in the box. Now he's moving on to the ladies. Like, he is going completely against the grain. He's going completely against what Uncle Sam wants him to do. However, when Kendrick transitions into Luther, how I interpreted that was Kendrick is saying, you can do what you want to do, you know what I'm saying? Because he was going to get to business. He was going to sing Not Like Us, but he had to handle business at home. He had to take care of his lady first. He had to make sure everything was good there before he got into the bullshit. I also think it does emphasize when he starts rapping Luther and all the dancers behind him are women and they all kind of fall in line. You get what I'm saying? Because he's being a real man. He's taking care of his business. They're following his lead. He's handling his business. He being a real man. You're going to fall in line naturally. Women are going to fall in line naturally. And he's walking over to SZA, arguably his work wife. Now, we got to give Miss SZA her flowers. She ate that thing up, okay? She did her thing. Now, I thought it was interesting that SZA was wearing red. And I feel like it serves two purposes. One, I think it's to show SZA's accomplishments, to show that SZA does stand out, that SZA has accomplished a lot. But I also think it's to show unity between the red and blue. Maybe to bridge the gap between people's differences or the differences between Black men and Black women. Red and blue mixed together makes purple. And purple historically is a color of royalty. And remember, he has loyalty and royalty inside his DNA. Now, when they're singing Luther, SZA's on a triangle and Kendrick comes to meet her. And I think the triangle was supposed to represent direction. But usually when you're playing a game on a PlayStation, the triangle is usually how you get to the map. The direction was pointed towards the circle. That's where they ended up moving towards. So I thought that was interesting also. So they sang Luther and then it transitions into All the Stars. And I have to say, even when I was watching it the first time, for some reason, when he started rapping his verse to All the Stars, it moved me. Like, I felt moved by it. I just felt emotional watching it, and I didn't know why. Even when I watch it now, when that part comes on, I feel emotional. Maybe it's because of what I'm about to say, but it just evokes something inside of me. Maybe it's just because it's powerful. It's really powerful. And I feel like when he's rapping this verse in particular, he's sending a direct message to the system. Because you have to listen to that verse. That verse is so powerful. He starts off saying, tell me what you're gonna do to me. Confrontation ain't nothing new to me. You could bring a bullet, bring a sword, but you still can't bring the truth to me. And especially with this administration, oh my God. I refuse to believe that orange man felt nothing when he was singing that part. I know it had to disturb his spirit. I just know it because I feel it. Like, I just feel it. I know it had to. I also think this verse kind of coincides with the beginning when he was saying squabble up and he was saying quid pro quo, what you want, because I'm watching it. And All the Stars in his verse, he's telling them, I don't even want what you have to offer. I don't even want your congratulations. I recognize your false confidence and promises. It's all in your conversations. Corrupt a man's heart with a gift. That's how you find out who you're dealing with. Bro, it was just so perfect. It was so perfect. That was the clearest message to me out of all of this, directly to this administration, to America, what's going on. Yes, I think this is a response to the Orange Man and everything that he's been doing since he's been in office. The orangutan man is only a small detail because this has been going on for years. It's not like this just started. The orangutan man is really only a detail in the grand scheme of America. This is nothing new. If anything, this performance made me feel like orangutan man is the final boss. Most of the songs he did not sing the chorus to. I think the fact that he purposefully had SZA sing the chorus to this song shows that black men and black women need to stand together. The unity. We need one another. Again, the cultural cheat code. Also, when they transition into All the Stars, you can see the dancers holding up a fist. You already know the vibes. So then SZA finishes performing as beautifully as she did. Uncle Sam's head ass comes back in. He's like, good. He starts applauding him. He starts applauding him and celebrating, saying, see, calm. That's what America wants to see. Even though if you were really listening to what Kendrick was saying during those verses, you would know that that's not what America wants. Like Andre 3000 said, you don't hear me, you just want to dance. Uncle Sam saying good job, applauding him for doing something that was calm, I think is a representation of how we'll be doing our own thing. Because Kendrick was doing that for himself. He was taking care of business for himself. He was sending a direct message for him, for his community. And for some reason, Uncle Sam is thinking it has something to do with him. Like, it was a representation of those people who are calling this performance boring. Because Kendrick made you listen. Even though he says, even if we were at the Louvre, you still wouldn't get the picture. So then Kendrick handles his business with SZA, his work wife. He handles his business at home. He handles his business with his lady. And then he gets into the business. Then he gets into Not Like Us. Also, we just have to give Samuel L. Jackson his flowers because his acting just made it so complete for me. Like, it was just so good, especially this scene. I loved it. I loved it so much. And I loved how it was like, Uncle Sam, get the fuck out the way. But then going back to King Kunta, when Kendrick says, rapper with a ghostwriter, what the fuck happened? And the female voices say, oh no. That's exactly how he transitioned to Not Like Us. Oh no. I just loved it. I love this so much. I love this so much. So Kendrick says, it's a cultural divide. I'm going to get it on the flow. Going back to the American flag being split in half. Also, I think a cultural divide in hip hop. And then he says, 40 acres and a mule. This is bigger than the music. Now, 40 acres and a mule, for everyone who does not know, refers to the actual 40 acres and a mule, which the government, Uncle Sam, promised to enslaved black people after slavery ended and said that they were going to compensate black people for the work that they put in. And it was going to happen. Abraham Lincoln had it in place. Then he got assassinated. Andrew Jackson came into office and said, hold up, no the fuck y'all are not gonna get 40 acres and a mule, and took it back. Mind you, Andrew Jackson is the orangutan man's idol. Also, 40 Acres and a Mule is a reoccurring theme and topic within To Pimp a Butterfly, which I think is so important and relevant because that's the same album that King Kunta is on. I also think he was talking about ownership. It's time to take back our influence. It's time to take ownership, take back our ownership. The black community, it's time to take back our ownership of this country, of the things we built in this country, our influence culturally, physically, emotionally, mentally, everything. It's time for us to claim it back, claim back what's ours. This is bigger than the music. And then he says, you can try to rig the game, but you can't fake influence. I think this has two meanings. One, we're going to go with the obvious, with the music industry. It's just so funny that Drake really put out this lawsuit saying that UMG was inflating Kendrick's sales so that Not Like Us will have 1 billion streams plus. But Drake was acting like they have not done that for Drake. I guarantee you that they have done that multiple times. They have artificially inflated Drake's sales in numbers just for profits. I also think when he says to rig the game, but you can't fake influence, is also going back to the game of capitalism. He's saying you can put all of these obstacles in front of our way, but you cannot erase our impact. We wouldn't even have dishwashers if it wasn't for black people and their inventions. Like, we wouldn't even have modern household things. You cannot erase our influence. You cannot change our influence and our impact. You can put all these obstacles in our way and we're going to knock it down every time. Again, because we are the blueprint. The blueprint is by me. And then we transition into Not Like Us. And you gotta give it to Kendrick because the transition was so smooth. The intro was so freaking smooth, bro. That shit gives me hype. I love it so much. A lot of people like to dim down this moment and dim down the rap beef because they don't understand it. And they're just saying Kendrick is the biggest hater. But that's not really what's happening. It's not only against Drake, but also what Drake represents, the whole music industry. Mind you, this song won 5 Grammys. Not Like Us won 5 Grammys. Song of the Year and Record of the Year. It crossed cultural boundaries, bro. This song is just showing you the impact of hip hop. You can't fake influence. Like, it's bigger than the music. In the song, even though Kendrick didn't say it on stage, in Not Like Us, Kendrick calls Drake a colonizer. It's a protest against infiltrating our culture and exploiting us. Now, there was a lot going on there too. I think that yard they were on was supposed to symbolize a prison yard. Kendrick is kind of standing alone with the women behind him, but it seems like he's up against everybody, which I think is also symbolic of the song, like what he did in the rap beef, because he was up against a giant. Drake was an industry giant, and Kendrick knocked that man down. He knocked him the fuck down, bro. But also, a lot of people, a lot of artists did not want him to perform this song. Even Charlamagne's goofy tap dancing ass was sitting there with Andrew Schultz. Andrew Schultz, a man who was making jokes about raping Kendrick Lamar in prison. And Charlamagne let it slide. Charlamagne was saying that he shouldn't do Not Like Us. So many people were saying he shouldn't do Not Like Us, when yes the fuck he should. Yes the fuck he should have done Not Like Us, and I'm so happy he did it. With that same idea, saying that Kendrick was standing up against industry giants. Felt like he was on his own, but he had the people on his back. Kendrick's moving into the crowd. He says, I'm finna pass on his body, I'm John Stockton, which I love that line. But when he says that, most of the dancers fall and kind of make this chalk outline as if, you know, they're dead. And I feel like that can have a lot of meanings. But how I just took that as he murked Drake. Like, he did a damn thing. He beat his ass, bro. Okay? Drake had them bullet holes in his hoodie for a reason. Cooked. It's done, bro. But also what I thought was interesting, when all those dancers fell, there was a circle of dancers who were just wearing white. You know, going back to the chosen ones. Everyone's getting judged, but God is favoring us. So I thought that was really interesting. And the way the crowd screamed A minor, you can't fake influence. You can't fake influence. And then we see Kendrick surprise the beautiful Serena Williams, which is hilarious because that is Drake's ex. Then not speak on Serena. She's on the light pole crip walking, which has a lot of cultural significance. She even says that if she was crip walking like that at Wimbledon, that she would have been fined, which I think is just so important for that moment. And especially if it's a prison yard that they're actually on, is a symbol for how Black women and Black bodies are policed, like how heavily we're policed. For something that's just cultural. That's just cultural to her. That's just native to her and who she is. I also just think it was interesting choosing Serena Williams to be there, not just because of Drake, but also because of her history in tennis. And also, Beyonce also featured Serena Williams in her music video, Sorry. So I just thought it was a very interesting choice all around. And of course, emphasizing the message to protect Black women and protect our culture. Are you my friend? Are we locked in? And then we transition into TV Off. And who does he bring out? Mustard, the cultural cheat code, his homeboy. Now, Kendrick rapping that verse for TV Off, I think it has a lot of significance, and I think there's a lot to be studied there. Certain things I picked from it were with a bone to pick, like it was Seabass. I just love that line. I think it's so good. Then he says, trying to show y'all the ropes before you hang from a rope, which obviously has so much significance. So when you think about that line in the context of the game, he's trying to put us up on game. Haha. But he's trying to show us there is a different way around it. You don't have to listen to the Uncle Toms. You don't have to do what you think white America wants you to do. There is a different way. And he's trying to show us before we fall into their trap. Because ultimately, if you do what you think white America wants you to do or what they actually want you to do, it is a trap regardless. Then he finishes that verse and screams, mustard, mustard. And to me, it almost seemed like a battle cry, like a war cry. because if you notice the dancers in the background, they line up and then they start to go into each other like they're fighting. And I took it as a civil war because if you look at both sides, they're identical, like the way that they're lined up. I also noticed how the people in white were on the front lines, which I thought was interesting. That part stuck out to me the most, especially when I was watching it for the first time. They run into each other and they kind of stop and come together to start dancing to Kendrick singing, "Turn his TV off, turn his TV off." Again, embracing the theme of unity, of community. They were at odds with each other, but they came in to join forces. Acting bad, but somebody gotta do it. Got my foot up on the gas, but somebody gotta do it. That's how the performance ends. And it says game over. He defeated the game. He was able to bring everybody together. I think it was beautiful. I also forgot to mention in the beginning that Kendrick starts off on a square when he's singing Squabble Up. And usually when you're playing a game, you press the square in order to punch, kick, etc. He went from the square to the X to the triangle to the circle. So whatever that means. Now, I personally don't think that he was alluding to Squid Games, even though Squid Games does have a lot of parallels because it is a representation on capitalism. But I don't personally think he was alluding to Squid Games because Squid Games is Korean and the point of this was to be American. So, but that's just me personally. Like I said, doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I think there are a lot of parallels that could be made. I just personally don't think that Squid Games was an influence. And lastly, going back to the beginning, when he says that no more handshakes and Uggs, the energy only circulates through us, God's favoring us, I think that reason in particular is why he did not sing all right. Because I saw a lot of people, I wouldn't say criticizing, but maybe, and just feeling disappointed that he didn't sing all right, saying that that's what we needed to hear. But Kendrick knew we were in mixed company. He was not going to perform all right so we could have this collaborative piece because if we're being honest, it's not all right now. We need to be up. We need to squabble up. We need to get our asses up and do something about it. And also, we're not mixing with the enemy anymore. You feel what I'm saying? Like, the time for that has passed. Like, we're not doing that shit anymore. We're not dealing with the Judases. I also saw someone say that they think that he only chose recent songs as a message to say we're not going back. It was a message to look forward. When you think about it, the only songs that he did from the past were Humble and DNA, which are genius because they want us to go back. They want us to be humble and dim our light, but we have to remember who we are, where we come from. We have to remember we built this country. We are the blueprint. Crazy.